So cool. I guess we'll get started. Welcome to the Power Platform Express, and I'm Rob Rising, the host. This is our second Power Platform Express. Today's January 29th. Got a couple of things on the agenda. So a couple of things on our agenda. We're going to talk about a couple of discussion items, news items. I've posted a few things on LinkedIn today that have gotten some traction, and I wanted to talk about those real quickly. One of them is pretty cool. One of them not so cool. Kind of still upset about it, but I still wanted to share it and get some feedback and just talk about it a little bit. And then I want to talk about YAML code inside of Power Apps. The fact that we have that ability now, we can paste YAML directly into Power Apps, Canvas Power Apps, as well as copy the code out, which is super powerful. And some places that you can share that with other people in the community, like Power Apps tools. And then obviously the Ask the Expert. Hopefully you came with some questions. If anybody's watching this that missed this, every Wednesday we're going to be doing these community calls. Hop on here. If you have a question during the week, write it down, and you can post it inside of the the community, the school community on LinkedIn. You can DM me, or you can just come to the session and present your question and hopefully get an expert to answer it. And it doesn't have to be a technical question. It could be about consulting, it could be about business, it could be about the Power Platform in general, governance, security, or it could be a technical question. If I can't answer it, maybe somebody in the community can. And then if it's something advanced or it goes over time and we think we can't handle it, we can always bring it back to the school community. And just like Milan, who's on today, did that last week with an SVG icon problem. He was able to resolve that himself, actually, but we did a little bit of back and forth. So no questions too small, no questions too big. Just bring it to the community and ask the experts, and we'll get it taken care of. And then finally, if there's time, a bonus, something I've been using for the past couple of weeks here, which is this like instant flow charting. I've been using for some solutions that I've been building, as well as just some general thought processes that I want to create flows out of. And I found this really fast way to create flowcharts. I've always hated creating flowcharts in like Visio or other tools. I don't find them really intuitive, and I find it takes a lot of time. It takes longer for me to map out that diagram than it does for me to actually come up with the process itself. So hopefully we have time. I think we will. I can go over that process there. So on to the open discussion items and news. So I made a post earlier today. I made a couple of posts earlier today. And one of them was a response to David Wyatt's blog about over-engineering inside of it. David goes on to talk about how not everything should end up inside of the Power Platform, and I totally agree. He talks about how when we find these tools, we find these low-code, no-code tools, we have a tendency to see everything as a nail. We are a hammer. Power Platform is a hammer, and everything is a nail. In every situation you can apply the Power Platform to in some way. You're like, oh, I can automate that feature with Power Automate. Oh, I should totally build that into an app. And I found myself falling into this hole as well. And I think I built some things at the beginning of my Power Platform and low-code career that didn't really need to either be a tool, or they didn't need to be a low-code tool. They probably should have been something that was full stack, something I just way over-engineered or way under-engineered for what the use case was. And so I posted this response in here, and not sure if you're going to be able to see that. Let me see if I can zoom in. Speaking of flowcharts, if I can get this one to load up here. Let me see if I can get a better view of that here. No, not that. Let's close out of that. There we go. So I built out this flowchart. This is something I run into with customers a lot, where they have an architectural review process within their company, but it's usually just they intake the review of a new application request, and then they push it off to another team. And I find that it's helpful to step in between that process and ask the questions like this. Do any existing solutions exist out there, like vendor apps, homegrown? Has something already been built for this? Architecture is about limiting duplication as much as possible, as well as everything else that's involved in it. Do you have tools that already exist, or already licensed for, like SharePoint, Planner, Microsoft Forms? If yes, use the existing solution. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. No? How about off the shelf? Are you going to buy something from a vendor? Do you need high levels of customization for that? Is it going to cost a lot of money to do those high levels of customization? Yeah, okay, well, let's evaluate the cost and feasibility of it. Okay, no, that's not going to work. Okay, so we don't have anything already built. We don't want to use a vendor because it's too expensive, or maybe there's not something out there that exists for it, or maybe the customizations we need will be too expensive or take too long. So now we're going to build it in-house. This is where the question of low code, pro code, or fusion comes in. And there's so many different things that you can discuss that would lean towards one or the other, that depending on the requirements of the solution, depending on how complex it is, how fast you need it, how much money you want to spend it, what resources you have currently available internally and externally to your company. So it's so important to go through this exercise every time someone puts a request in for a piece of software. No matter if it's to develop it or to purchase it, you got to go through this. And sometimes it's not going to be a low-code solution. Sometimes it's going to be a pro-code. Sometimes it's a hybrid of both. It's fusion with pro-code, low-code. But you're not going to figure that out unless you have these discussions and put this in between that request. So I just wanted to bring that up. I thought it was interesting that David posted a blog about it, and it's something I've run into over the past 15 years of engineering and architecture and development work across my career. So it's nice to put it to paper here like that. Have you ever run into a situation like that, Milan, where you've duplicated a solution or rebuilt the wheel, so to speak, or pro code or low coded something that should have been somewhere else? Yeah, it's just taking it from a higher level and just stepping back and looking at that 1,000,000-foot view, 1,000-foot, 1,000,000-foot view of what the customer actually needs. And then, I mean, sometimes it's a matter of, for me, putting your ego aside. You're like, okay, maybe this shouldn't be low code. Maybe I shouldn't be developing this, And a lot of the times I'll run into customers who they're like, oh, we should build an app, and they already have. This is like, no, this is SharePoint. Like, why are we rebuilding SharePoint? And I'm not going to charge you to do that. I'm not going to create a project and start charging you to develop something that you already pay licensing for. That's just bad, poor practice. But yeah, so the second thing I wanted to talk about on here for discussion, open discussion items news, and this is kind of the less positive one that I wanted to talk about, is I posted about this earlier as well. Somebody messaged me earlier this morning as I was having my coffee, asking me if I needed help with certification, is how I took the first message that I got. And so I asked them for clarification. They said, we're providing certification service at less price, 100% passing guarantee. So my first thought, maybe I'm naive, I was like, oh, they're helping with, teaching people how to pass these courses, and you get a refund if you don't pass. That's cool. I asked them for some clarification, and that was not the case. They said that they would give support in taking control of my PC using a third-party application and clearing the exam with me just sitting in front of the PC. Not cool. So I reported this person to Microsoft's certification security team internally, as well as to LinkedIn. Blocked them, obviously, and then I made a post just for awareness for people out there that this is going on. I had no idea that this is a widespread thing. I've had some responses out in LinkedIn. Other people have been hit up the same way, as well as for complete exam dumps and other ways of cheating. And I think it really waters down the certification process for everybody. It also makes people who are hiring, like myself included, suspicious of your certification. It's something I'm going to have to take into consideration when hiring myself, and have people do live exams right in front of me, really test them, as opposed to being able to trust the certifications they have. So it's kind of disappointing. I'm glad that the reaction inside of LinkedIn was much like mine, was like, holy heck, I can't believe people are actually doing this. But I guess it makes sense where there's a dollar to be made, people will take advantage of it. Have you ever run into that before? Where somebody's asked you to, if you want them to cheat for you or anything like that? Yeah. Yeah. And who knows? It might be another level on top of that, where they're actually just having you install something on your PC that's nefarious, which, karma, I guess, if that's the case. All right. So third thing on our agenda, YAML and Power Apps tools. Have you used YAML yet? YAML code inside of the platform? Like, copy and pasted it at all?
You?
Yep.
In last
Exactly. Yep.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great way.
I love it. And the shareability of it, of those controls, is one of the biggest pluses, I think, from it. So anybody who doesn't know what YAML is, it stands for, or used to stand for, yet another markup language. And I think they just changed the name of it. The creator changed it to not a markup language or something like that. I can't remember the exact terminology, but it essentially is. It's a markup language. This is kind of what it looks like. And what you can use it for is building out controls inside of Power Apps, Canvas Power Apps in particular, or copying them. So if you build something using the edit interface inside of Power Apps, Canvas Power Apps, you can right click on that and you can actually just copy that code. So I'll give you an example here. If I can just open one up here. Go here to default. My machine's running really slow right now, so I apologize. But you can copy and paste. Let me go in. We'll just go in this one, test PDF. You can copy and paste your controls from app to app. And you can also just start directly from code. You can literally just use YAML and code a control. And then you can paste these out to other communities. So for example, there is the Power Apps Tools. So if you go to powerappstools.com, you can go out and click on YAML and look at other YAML snippets that others have posted out there. There's some really, really cool ones out there. And this speeds up development time by so much. And you can, post them out here, keep your own personal library, what have you. I've shared one so far out to this community. I'm working on another one right now. The one I shared to it was just a simple little toggle switch. Should be on here somewhere. I'll find it. So, but some of them are super advanced. I mean, someone had looks like someone had Minesweeper on there. Look, it's a product gallery that you can just copy and paste. Like, let me actually do that. So I'll copy this snippet, and let's do a new screen here. Let's just do screen. We'll do just a blank screen, and you right click, paste, and paste code. Oh, that one had some errors inside of it. You might have to identify some things inside of there. Yeah, it's looking for... That was a little bit more of an advanced one. That was probably looking for some collections or a data source underneath it. Let's grab one that's a little simpler here. I can paste in there. So how about a multifunction button gallery? God, that looks cool. Let's copy that. Let's delete this containers. Right click, paste code. Look at that. How cool is that? This is so cool. Absolutely so cool. Yeah, there's a couple that I'm working on right now. If you create something, like I said, you don't have to do it straight from code. You can create something inside of Power Apps Canvas, and then you could just right click and copy. So let's pretend that I had created this one. If I come in here and go to the container and I right click, I go copy and copy code. That's all you have to do, and then you can paste it into the community or share it into a new app. That's what this one looks like here. It's very, very straightforward on building these. There's another, besides powerappstools.com, there's a Power Apps community, GitHub community for snippets. Let me just pull that up here. Power Platform snippets, there it is. Yep, and you can see the people that are on here. So you got April Dunham on here. I think she's one of the people that runs it. You got a lot of big names in the Power Platform that are contributors on here. And by contributing to this, that's another notch in your belt if you're doing something like going after MVP, Microsoft's valuable professional, most valuable professional. If you're going after that kind of certification or recognition, it's a good idea. Create some snippets, submit them to this community. I'd also submit them to the powerappstools.com over here. Just because I love the layout of this site, and I think it's more accessible for people that might not use GitHub. But either way, it's going to serve to get you some recognition. It's going to build out this great resource for other people to use. But yeah, hop on here and try them out. Copy it. It's so much fun just to grab a couple of them and pop them on here. I love the QR code generator, SVG donut here, color picker. I got to see this Minesweeper here. I got to try this out. so used to using Control C, Control V. That doesn't actually work here. You have to right click and then paste it on there. It doesn't look like that one actually worked. So trial and error. I'm sure that I could get this one working with some time. Worth a shot though. Oh, there it goes. Wow. You have to be kidding me. It is literally Minesweeper. That is insane. Love it. Alright, so that's all I had for the official agenda. Now on to our Power Platform Ask the Expert. Now you had a couple of questions last week, Juan. Did you come up with some new ones? I know you fixed that SVG problem that you were having last week, which is, I'm glad to hear that. And that was one of the suggestions I was going to make. I was furiously asking ChatGPT what it thought, and that was one of the recommendations was, make a really simple SVG or clear some of the code out of the SVG, or try, PNG, but obviously that's not recommended. So any questions?
So
Yeah, no.
I was, and now.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, it is interesting how there's multiple layers of when the code runs, and you're talking about in model driven apps, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that you can trigger additional logic inside of there when they click save and close, like using like form on save event. Is that what you're talking about?
Right.
Yeah. Understandable. There is really so much you can do, and it's crazy how different. Like in Canvas apps, that just makes sense, because like in Canvas apps you have on select of a button, on select property for various in a gallery for really a lot of controls, whereas model driven apps, you might not think about that, the fact that you can attach other code to that save and close functionality. So yeah, I'd be interested to see what you come up with, what you write up on that. Something I just was reading / watching a video on. So I know you said you haven't had too much time to play around inside of Canvas apps, but inside of Canvas apps we have on start here, which if you've been listening to Microsoft at all, they've been saying for the past couple of years, don't use on start sparingly. On start obviously it runs on the start of the app. Anything that runs inside of OnStart runs prior to the app opening, so it's going to degrade performance of opening the application. So Microsoft's been saying, well, don't put anything inside of there that doesn't need to be run actively as soon as the app starts, which makes sense, but also there's sometimes limited ways that you can do those same functionalities that you need to have built when the app loads, but you don't necessarily need them to be loaded right away. And so Microsoft added the formulas section. So now we can add formulas into here, named formulas, create a formula for something, and that formula won't load into app memory until you utilize it. So you could still have it sitting there ready to wait, but you don't have to use something like an on visible or an on select or something. You don't have to define it somewhere else. You've already defined it and you've named it. So like name formula underscore app admins equals, and then you can define that formula. You can create that name formula, and then whenever you call that, now it has the app admins anywhere you use it across the application. Super useful. I'm sure a lot of people listening are saying, I've done this before. I've been using this for years. Microsoft just made a change a couple of days ago where you can do declarative as well as imperative formulas inside of here. So kind of hard to explain the difference for those, and I might completely butcher this, but essentially you weren't allowed to put formulas in there that would do an action such as a set or a collect or anything that could be redefined later on. You would do just static formulas. You would only be able to set something once, and that named formula stays the same. You can't update it, essentially, once it's been defined inside of the name formula. Now, you can do both declarative and imperative formulas inside of there. So now you can do things like set and collect, and it makes it a lot more powerful. Now you don't have to do those types of things inside of onVisible, inside of on select of a button. You can now put it inside of a formula and then call that formula and have the formula do those things. So it really expands the usage of formulas. Really neat. All right. Yeah, I think within the past couple of days they changed that, but yeah, it's gonna help the performance of applications a lot, I think. And I've already started, building that. This isn't something that's in preview. It's just live, I think. And so I've already started building that into the solutions that I'm building right now, and just loading more things into formulas as opposed to app on start, as opposed to on select, on visible, or various other ways that we, get around declaring those kind of things. Oh, the new analysis engine? Yeah. So I've been seeing that thing pop up, and I've enabled it on one of the solutions that I'm building with a client, just because it's been warning me that February 25th or something like that's going to go live. I think that Microsoft might want to pump the brakes on that. I've seen some bugs when I enable the new analysis engine. I agree, it is a lot faster. It's just authoring performance. That's not, play performance. That's not live production app performance of the app that it improves. It's just the edit. But I've seen some really weird things happening when I have that analysis engine on, where, a formula won't work. It'll either not give an error or not give an error, and then I'll have to back out of the app and come back in, and now it's performing as expected, as well as a couple other just weird things when I have the analysis engine turned on. Co-authoring is another one of those that I turned on, and also had some weird bugs happen when I had somebody else inside of the application. So just something to keep in mind if you're using these new features. You might want to, if you experience a bug, you might want to try turning that off, backing out of the app, coming back in, and it might fix the issue. I hope Microsoft stomps on those bugs with this, because it really does. That new analysis engine really does run the editing, the authoring version of an application a lot faster.
I think it is under.
Yeah. All these little tricks you got to learn. Cool. Well, one more thing I did want to share, the kind of bonus thing. It has really nothing to do with Power Platform, but I did use it to create that flowchart that was in the news and discussions part, talking about the architectural flowchart of going through app intake and deciding. Like I said, I don't do well with Visio, so I'm always looking for a new tool to create diagrams, because I think that they help in the design process, the requirements gathering process, a lot. And I found kind of an interesting way to build a flowchart using ChatGPT, or you could use any LLM really, and using something called Mermaid. It's a Mermaid flowchart. You could probably, there's a couple other ones out there as well, but just going to give you a quick demo of what I'm talking about here. Let me here. So let's see. So let's think about something that we want to flowchart here. Any ideas? Something that you'd want visualization of a flow on? A request lifecycle. What kind of request? Let's get some more specifics in there.
Let's
say I want to create a flowchart of creating a request for my IT department with escalations through different phases of that request. This request is for desktop support of my PC. Show me the different steps of this flow without a visual flowchart. So now we're going to get some text of what that flowchart is. I'm using an advanced model here. I probably shouldn't have been. There are different models for ChatGPT, by the way, and you only get so many responses with plus mode for that. For something like this, we probably don't need advanced reasoning. Okay, so we got identify the issue, submit the request, ticket creation and initial review, desktop support triage, escalation to tier 2, escalation to tier 3 expert support, and resolution and testing. Ticket closure, and how about some possible branches? All right, we'll let that figure that out. Now I want you to create part in Mermaid code. That's the key. And use icons where applicable. Still going through that. So we got user misclassification or insufficient information. User does not respond to follow-up. issue resolved without IT involvement. These are good ones. VIP or critical system request. That's obviously a well-known use case for requests. No relay resolution available. Hardware replacement needed. Okay, I think that's enough. We'll stop there. Let's see different branches for us. Okay, cool. So now it's going to create Mermaid code for this flowchart that we just came up with here. And Mermaid code is it's another markup language, just like YAML. It's even more simple. Cool. So we have user identifies PC issue, correctly categorized, misclassified. Okay. And explanation of what the flowchart branches are. So let's go ahead and copy this Mermaid code. And we're going to bring it over to, this is mermaid.live is what I'm using here. There are other flowcharting websites just like this that use their own version of code. I just found that this one looks the best and it works really well. I don't have the paid version of this. You only get like 5 projects that you can work on with the free version, but I think that's enough. You can just keep on overwriting yours or pay for the full version if you really use it a lot. But essentially you just paste the graph into the Mermaid code and look how fast that was. Like, you now have a beautiful flowchart that you can use to really describe your process, and you can change how it looks as well. You can change the theme of this. So that's dark. Change to corporate. There's another one that I don't see on here that I usually use, but you can make it look however you want to essentially, and then you can just export it to a PNG or to an SVG, and you can also come in and you can edit this. So you can come in and actually move these, go into the edit mode and move them around, drag and drop them, change the text on here. Just so cool.
You can.
You can in this mode. You can't. I think if you save it to Mermaid chart, you can. So if I go to, let's see, that's the live editor. If I go to Mermaid chart editor. There we go. So Mermaid chart editor, this is where I can use, this is my favorite theme on here. But now you can see I can actually move these around. I can add new nodes onto there. And then I can also change the code, as well as just come in here and edit these directly, edit the icons on here, edit the text, change the lines themselves, as well as drag and drop these different nodes into different areas. So it blew my mind how fast this was and how useful this was. I used it on a solution. Someone came to me the other night after I'd already signed off of work, and they had an opportunity from a client that was moving fast, as it always does in consulting and sales. They want a response immediately with an estimate and diagramming of what your proposal is to their solution. And I used this to quickly create a architectural diagram of what I'm thinking the solution should be within like 10 minutes. And it was able to respond back to the salesperson, able to respond back to the customer, and who knows, we might have won the deal because of that. So I know this isn't Power Platform related, but it kind of is, because we have to do our architectural work and our documentation work for everything that we're building. So hopefully you find that useful. There's also, inside of ChatGPT, there's actually a specific ChatGPT made. This is official GPT from Mermaid team. If you are using ChatGPT, you can install that, and it directly does that inside of ChatGPT. So, like, create a flowchart for making pizza and add emojis, and you can just download it directly inside of here, as well as open it up inside of the Mermaid editor. So faster than copying and pasting. But I wanted to show you both iterations, just in case you don't have access to GPT, or if you want to use some other large language model or some other flowchart creation system. I'm thinking about building a Power App, back to Power Apps, where we could do this internally inside of a Power App and just hit internal Copilot GPTs, and then potentially maybe even use some Azure Logic app to do the building of the flowchart. And if not, then maybe talk to Mermaid. Mermaid has their own API, and do it within there, so that we can have our own internal application at my job, my day job, where we could do these kind of flowchart creation. But yeah, look at that. How fast is that? Start making a pizza, gather ingredients, prepare dough rising.
Yeah, this is perfect diagram. I think
Yeah, yeah,
At least it
it
was crazy how
yeah,
it is
exactly.
not.
And if you're not an artist,
Yeah,
it's going to take you forever to do that kind of stuff.
process.
No, it's not user friendly. It's not intuitive on building it. The new like web version, like the Visio Lite, has gotten better because they have templates and stuff like that. But if you need to build anything complex inside of there, it's going to take you forever, and then you have to like import your own icons and yeah,
So normally users have no license for this.
yeah, it's expensive. It was expensive
Yeah,
back then. I think it was like $900 to purchase the software. So you had to prove it that you needed it. Yeah,
right.
you usually had that one guy in your department or one guy at your company who was like really good at Visio, and he became the Visio guy. It's like, can you just make a diagram for me? But now you have a Visio guy. You're the Visio guy. So I hope
Yeah,
that
this is
helps.
in the future.
Awesome.
Great tip.
Awesome. So yeah, if you don't have any other questions, we can take some time back, maybe grab some food. But hopefully you got some information out of this. Looking forward to the next one. Come if you have questions you think about during the week, just write them down. If you have topics that you want to discuss, bring them. If you want to present something, bring it. I'm going to post those polls that we just talked about inside of the school community. Hopefully get some more interactivity, get some more people joining these calls. But I appreciate you hopping on. All right. Well, take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll talk soon.
So have a nice day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.